Up until this year, I always purchased 2 Christmas cards for my mother. One card I gave to her, and the other card I saved for the following Christmas with the fervent hope that she would be around for me to give it to her a year later. This year, on Christmas Day, Father Zach and I had a quiet dinner in the rectory, brought in by a couple of my brothers. We had the legal limit of 10. And I placed this undelivered card on top of the table over the empty chair where my mother would sit when occasionally she would come by for dinner. It was a sad but different for those of us who were there and the majority who weren't there. And when you think, I was thinking about that insofar as Holy Family today, because this COVID 2020 Christmas was most likely very different for every one of us, staying put, probably at home with a lot less fanfare, a lot less celebration. But nevertheless, wherever or whoever we may have been with, the very same mystery, the very same gift, and the very same reason for the gathering was there. God is with us. And so on this beautiful Feast of the Holy Family, we hear this gospel today, and it just presents 5 people: Anna and Simeon, Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. A small but potent mix of family, the elderly, a mother, a father, children, all under the umbrella of love. It's an umbrella of love and faith that doesn't shield a family and didn't protect Mary and Joseph from hearts being pierced by a sword or many swords. And so there have been many hearts pierced this COVID Christmas, this year 2020, but hopefully on Christmas Day, nevertheless, in spite of it all, you felt the graces, the blessings as well. More than ever, this Christmas reminded us that it's not about the material gifts, the stuff, the material things of Christmas, but it is about the presence of God with us in the midst of family life, and it's family and faith and legacy that we celebrate on this beautiful Feast of the Holy Family. And I think the Feast of the Holy Family is really the most important feast day of the year, because without an experience and without an appreciation of a relatively, and the word is relatively, a relatively normal, healthy, real family, well then Christmas and Easter and everything else doesn't mean as much without, first and foremost, the experience of family. And whenever I celebrate a baptism, I always make that point. This is about a gathering of family and faith. And the family comes first, because without the family, the faith doesn't have a context to grow in. So we celebrate the Holy Family not to put forth this impossible ideal, but instead a very real, a very practical, a very realistic example of family life. And so what happened to the Holy Family of Nazareth happens, to one degree or another, in every human family. There are ups and downs. Anybody here from a perfect family? Probably not. The lesson of family life is that the joys and the happiness can be experienced at the same time as sadness and pain. Family life is a mixed bag. There are good times and bad times, sickness and health, various forms of poverty and riches, and the continual cycle of life and death. And so this mixture of good and bad is a hard lesson to learn to incorporate time and time again. And it's very interesting that liturgically we see it played out in the Christmas season as the church flip-flops between these themes and feasts of happiness and sadness. So we go from Friday's joyful Christmas scene with the singing of the angels at the hills of Bethlehem to yesterday's feast of St. Stephen being stoned to death as the first martyr. And tomorrow there's the horrible remembrance of the Holy Innocents, which happens even more in our own day through the scourge of abortion. So this mixture of good and bad in life is a paradox. Family life is a paradox. After all, living with others is so often and simultaneously the source of our greatest solace and comfort and support, and sometimes the cause of our deepest hurts and pains. So at Christmas time, we're reminded that Jesus has taken on our human nature, but we're sobered by the fact that he hasn't taken away our nature and our weaknesses. And so even though we have this beautiful manger scene right up here that was developed by St. Francis and certainly has been encouraged by Pope Francis for us to reflect upon at great length, it would be a mistake, I think, to think that this scene here is to see it as too idyllic or too peaceful a light, because in fact so many things went wrong in the family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And if it could go wrong in that family, you can be sure that it can go not the way we always wanted in our own families. And so right from the get-go, as we hear in this gospel today, Simeon says to Mary, your family life is destined. It is destined for good and bad, for the rise and the fall. And you yourself, a sword will pierce. So what is that supposed to mean? Thankfully, Joe and Mary didn't have the whole picture given to them at that moment. They might have run away. The Holy Family wasn't a normal family. Then again, how can you really define what normal or normalcy means? It's always in the context of something else. There's no such thing as really a normal family. Just as every individual is different, so every family is different. The goal is to strive. The goal is to continue to strive to be healthy or healthier, as healthy as possible. And I think there's a way to struggle in the year 2021 towards better family health, no matter how long we've been at it. And it comes from the recovery movement, AA, which is a genuine American spirituality. Namely, to be healthy, we should strive towards progress, not perfection. Not perfection, but progress. Perfection in one's personal life and in the family life can be an illusion. Perfecting, yes. Achieving, sharpening, honing, polishing, improving, yes. But personal perfection could actually be problematic, both spiritually and psychologically. Jesus, the incarnate Word, humbled himself to take on our imperfect human nature so that we could gradually come to share in his divinity and ultimately be with him in the kingdom of heaven. We remain imperfect, but today's feast reminds us that the essential aspect is a four-letter word. The key thing is that we G-R-O-W, grow. We can grow in wisdom, age, and grace, becoming strong in spite of all the swords that will pierce our comfort zones and upend our lives as COVID has done this year. But through it all, here we are, because God is with us. God is with us in the mess, in the scourge of the pandemic, the vaccines, the ups and downs, in family life, in country life, in America, in our church life. God is with us. We never know how long we will have our loved ones. Who knows where will we be? We will be next Christmas. So we need to keep striving, perfecting our family life, letting the peace of Christ control our hearts, as St. Paul tells us, putting on love in whatever we do, in word or deed, and giving thanks to God for the blessings that we have at this particular moment, and for getting us through this difficult year. So I'd like to just end by something I just found before the Mass here, the Holy Father's brief words for today that he gave at the Angelus a couple of hours ago in Rome. And the Holy Father suggested 3 short phrases to help avoid Cold War in the family. The 3 words, please, thank you, I am sorry. And he goes on to say, if in the family environment there are these 3 words, the family will survive. The family is fine. So let us pray then today, as we celebrate our feast day, Holy Family, that we will continue to grow in wisdom, age, and grace, and whatever the particular family we're in, to give thanks to the Lord and try to do the best we can to make it even better.